Hey, how can I help you?
I have something here that I think you're going to be very interested in. This is Nikola Tesla's very first prototype motor, built in 1887.
That's really, really cool.
What is Tesla?
Tesla made more contributions to our way of life today than any other engineer or scientist in recorded history. I decided to come here today to the pawn shop to see if they would be interested in buying my Tesla prototype motor. This motor should be worth $1 million. In today's economy, I am trying to sell this motor for $250,000.
How did you find this?
This motor was made by Tesla's assistant, and he sent it to William A. Anthony, who is the professor of electrical engineering at Cornell. Tesla wanted Anthony's endorsement. This motor stayed in the vaults at Cornell until a couple of people recognized this as something interesting, and I bought it from them.
Tesla was probably the smartest man of the 19th century. He basically invented the electricity we use in homes. He invented alternating current.
That's right.
If this is actually Tesla's first motor, it's like finding the lost ark for technology buffs. It would also mean it's worth an incredible amount of cash.
Depending on which of these switches you closed first or second, the rotor would rotate this way or rotate this way, which is the basis of all alternating current motors.
What's that mean?
Okay. Before this, they had direct current, like battery power. DC current was only good for a mile or two. As opposed to alternating current, the electricity could go 100 miles in a wire. It was just much more efficient. Do you understand?
Sure.
Nikola Tesla was obsessed with electricity, and his greatest invention was the alternating current motor and generator. He's without a doubt one of the greatest inventors of all time. How much did you want for it?
$250,000.
I mean, it doesn't sound like a out-of-this-world number if it's Tesla's original motor. But I have to have someone I know tell me what it is before I start talking numbers. So let me make some phone calls. All right?
You got it.
I'll be right back.
All right. Thank you. I am totally convinced that this is the original. If they want to bring in an expert to verify it or whatever, I'm happy with that. That's fine.
Oh, I spotted Mark.
Hey, Chum.
The guys normally call me down here when they have an unusual historical piece, because after 35 years of running museums, there isn't much I haven't seen at one point or another.
This man believes he has Nikola Tesla's original induction motor.
Interesting. Tesla is one of those characters out of the 19th century that everybody should be aware of. You know, the amount of change that he brought to our lives that we're still dealing with today. It was Tesla's design that created the first major power plants. In fact, they used Tesla's designs to create the power plant at the bottom of Niagara Falls. What makes you think that this is Tesla's prototype?
Because it came from William A. Anthony, who's
Sure.
the professor of electrical
At
engineering at
Cornell, right. Mm-hmm.
Because it follows exactly the patent description of May 4 of 1888.
He did a design for an engine. He actually did two, sent both of them to Professor Anthony. And Professor Anthony tested them. He was so impressed that he went to the American Institute for Electrical Engineers and talked them into inviting Tesla to come in and speak. And this is an image from his talk. When Tesla spoke, this is the motor that he demonstrated. Nikola Tesla is one of the most important people in the history of electrical use in the history of the modern world. In the account, Professor Anthony is brought up on stage and was asked to speak about what Tesla was saying. And that's where I think I have some bad news for you. Professor Anthony said, these appear to be the same motors that I tested. So they weren't left behind at Cornell. But what I think you have here is probably the 19th century teaching version.
I know you've done your research, but I respectfully disagree. The design of this, which matches the patent, far exceeds the engineering design in this illustration. I think this precedes that motor.
We have a different opinion. That's going to happen. Unless you found a picture of Tesla holding this, it's going to be very, very hard to prove.
Thanks for coming in, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's nothing I can do with it. I mean, I gotta respect Mark's opinion, and if he doesn't believe it's Tesla's, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm definitely disappointed that I'm not going to have the lost ark of technology in my shop. I'm just glad I didn't drop $250,000 on some teacher's visual aid. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I think the guys made a huge mistake today. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I know they're going to regret it.
What do we have here?
This is the rarest, most significant Star Wars prototype in the world. This is a one-of-a-kind rocket-firing Boba Fett, and it is something I love more than anything.
Okay, but obviously there's a dollar figure that you love more than this thing.
I came to the pawn shop today to sell the 1979 Toy Fair prototype of Boba Fett. It is a rocket-firing Boba Fett action figure that was never actually mass-produced. I'm here to sell the figure today because I've owned it for many years, and the time has come for me to pass the figure on to another diehard Star Wars collector.
This is pretty amazing. Do you know anything about it?
This was actually displayed at the 1979 Toy Fair in New York City, and it is the only carded rocket-firing Boba Fett in the world. Basically, back in 1979, they promoted this figure as a rocket-firing Boba Fett. It has a spring mechanism in the back of the figure, where it actually projects and shoots this little tiny rocket out of its back. But at the last minute, Kenner realized that little rocket is a choking hazard and could actually go down a child's throat, and they could choke to death on it. The rocket in the back was glued down.
Okay.
And everybody was just beyond upset.
That is really neat. So this is Boba Fett. Boba Fett was the
Bounty hunter.
bounty hunter that went after he went after Han Solo, right?
Bounty hunter did go after Han Solo, correct.
Okay. I've seen Star Wars like 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's over the course of like 40 years, so.
I understand.
The Star Wars films are probably the most successful series of films in the history of the world. And I'm sure there's plenty of fans that would pay insane money for this prototype. I just hope his price isn't from a galaxy far, far away. All right, so what price do you want for this priceless item?
I am asking $150,000 firm.
Okay. Since I have never even heard of this,
Most people haven't.
let me call my Star Wars nerd, okay?
I would love to meet him.
All right, give me a few minutes and I will get him down here and you guys can nerd out.
Looking forward to it, thanks. I'm always interested in hearing another expert's opinion on Star Wars collectibles, and I would love to hear what, this expert has to say.
So apparently people like you get really excited over this.
Absolutely.
So obviously you know about this.
Yeah, of course I know. As a Star Wars aficionado, everybody knows this figure. First debuted in 1979, Toy Fair. This was the prototype. And, Boba Fett is really, literally the most famous character in Star Wars. I mean, he might even be more popular than Darth Vader. Boba Fett was this really menacing bounty hunter. He had this big blaster. He has a jetpack. He could fire rockets from his arm. He's a renegade, and he's going after one big bounty, and that's Han Solo.
So is it real?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Can I take a look at this?
Sure.
First of all, we see the back. This was the double-sided tape from the display at the Toy Fair, so that's pretty cool. When you turn it back around, this was kind of the mock-up. If you look here, you could see how they changed it a little bit. They altered a little bit. The artwork's a little different.
The fireball is completely different.
Right. This is the holy grail of Star Wars toy collecting. It's
Correct.
right here, and it's in your store.
All right, so what do you think I could sell it for?
The extreme rarity of this is just off the charts. I mean, it's one of one we're talking about here. Minimal $125,000.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Since you're in the market today, I've got some stuff that you might be interested in.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
I mean, Star Wars makes money.
Okay, good. I'll
Okay.
see you later today.
See you later, man.
Yep, take care.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah,
Thank you
nice
for your
to see you.
help.
Take care. This is the only Boba Fett rocket-firing toy. With all the movies coming out and with just what Star Wars keeps doing, I see this thing keep going up in value through the years.
So you're firm at 150.
I'm firm at $150,000. It is a bargain.
I'm not going to buy this for an investment. I'm going to buy this to resell it.
I understand.
So I'd give you 100 grand for it.
I'm sorry, I can't do 100 grand.
Well, if you change your mind, I got 100 grand.
I thank you very much for the offer, but I'm
Okay.
gonna have to say no.
Okay. Thanks for coming in, though, man. I
Very nice
appreciate
meeting
it.
you. Thank you very much. I feel that the expert's opinion is a little low. Unfortunately, the offer of $100,000 is a bounty I cannot accept.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going just great, thank you.
What can I help you with?
Well, I brought a lighter. I brought a 1936 Zippo prototype.
Okay. You say this is a prototype?
Yes, it is.
I'm not wearing my glasses.
You want to borrow mine? I collect both pocket and table lighters. I found this lighter about 5 years ago at an antique show. I'm looking to sell the lighter because, like anything else, out with the old, in with the new.
This is cool. I mean, Zippo's got a really, really neat history. I mean, they're still made in the USA. And the guy who started Zippo realized that every other lighter that was made at the time was junk. It really was. And he came up with a design for a windproof lighter. Really quality. You could light it with one hand. You could put it in your pocket. I think it was $2 when they came out.
That is correct.
That was like $75 in today's money, probably. Back in the 1930s, you could be a rich guy and buy a gold lighter, but the fact of the matter was, they weren't that good of lighters. And Zippos were windproof, they worked all the time, and you could throw it in your pocket. It's just good old American ingenuity at its finest, and I'm interested. The paint is not in great shape, but it's not dented and dinged, and that's usually the really big thing with condition on Zippos. It's definitely one of the older ones. It's the square-cornered one.
This may be a one of a kind.
All right, so how much you want for this thing?
$82.5.
$8,250?
Yes.
I used to buy and sell them all the time. There's still a huge collector's market for these things.
Yeah.
Certain ones are worth a lot of money. And now, this is actually a prototype from 1936, you said?
That is correct.
I mean, you really have something here, but I need to have someone look at it. I actually have a friend who works at Zippo,
Wonderful.
okay? Let me give her a call and get her down here. She'll know 10 times as much about either one of us about this thing.
Great.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Thank you. I would love to have an expert take a look at it. I'm not worried about the expert saying that it is not authentic, because I know it is.
He says this is a prototype Zippo lighter from 1936.
Wow. I've never seen one like this before. So I brought some prototypes, and I brought one actual production so I could do some comparisons.
Okay.
If you compare these lighters, the windscreen has 14 holes, just like this production one. So this is one of the clues. And the rivet that holds the wheel in place is a hollow one, just like this one that I brought. But I've never seen a lighter with this black paint before. And the paint on the prototypes was an experimental paint and was not typical for the lighters that were produced during 1936. They had the chrome finish on there.
So this was a prototype that was never sold, so it was different than the production model.
It was.
If it was just an experimental model, how did they get out on the market?
That's a really good question. What I think may have happened is Mr. Blaisdell founded the company in 1932, produced the first lighter in 1933. But Mr. Blaisdell had a difficult time getting the world to know about his great invention. So he used to give them to bus drivers that would pass through town and encourage the bus drivers to tell other people about the Zippo lighters, how quality they were in the lifetime warranty.
Okay. So this prototype, everything checks out to be 1936.
Let me check the patent. It does. That's perfect.
Okay, cool.
The company founder instituted the bottom stamp as a quality control measure. But what that actually allows collectors to do is to narrow down when these lighters were manufactured.
What do prototype lighters from 1936 go for?
You know, without the original packaging, between $3,000 and $4,000.
All right, you're the best.
Thank you. If Rick is able to get this for a good price, I think he should get it. We have so many collectors that would love to get their hands on a lighter like this.
Okay, I think it's deeply cool, and it's in better shape than what the historian has. So, would you take $3,500 for it?
I'll take $4,000 cash.
How about 38?
I'll meet you in the middle, 39.
I might be crazy, but you got a deal.
All right.
Okay, cool. Let's. I'll meet you right over there. We'll do some paperwork.
You got it.
My dad carried one of those in his pocket for probably 40 years.
It is a fair price. I know that he has to be able to resell it for a reasonable profit, and that's what happens with commerce.
What we got here?
Brought some old sneakers in for you.
Awesome. Jordans? Let's see these bad boys.
No, that's Roberto Clemente?
Yes.
These are cool. I like these. What are you doing?
I love how new shoes smell. Smell it. Smells
No.
Clemente's pretty much the best Pirate baseball player ever. Did so many great things for the community and for baseball. Basically, they're the shoes say Roberto Clemente on the box and on the shoe. They're unworn and they're in mint condition. The first 2 times I was here, I was very successful making 2 deals, and I'm hoping the 3rd time's a charm.
I know a little bit about Roberto Clemente. He was like the first Puerto Rican guy in the major leagues. I think it was like 53 or 54 he went in, right when they were starting integrating the league.
1955.
Okay. And ended up having an amazing career. You know, he was Puerto Rican, but Nicaragua had an earthquake. And he actually flew down there, get a bunch of relief supplies, and the plane crashed.
Right.
And the weird thing is his body was never found.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and just a really great career. Ended up going right into the Hall of Fame. And the shoes, I know nothing about.
I heard that they were prototypes. I mean, he died, so they figured who's gonna buy his shoes.
Roberto Clemente was the pride of Puerto Rico. And if these really were the prototype, I know there's a buyer out there for them. There's one thing in this world that I have learned from Chumlee, and that is there's a market for sneakers. You're the one who knows everything about shoes.
Yeah, I'd never seen them before. These are pretty cool. They got some nice little leather going on in here. It's real bad quality, though. The stitching's not even the same. You can tell they were just samples.
I think they're bitchin'. I like them. They're obviously brand new. They don't look like they've ever been worn. Now, I'm assuming you want to sell these? What do you want to do?
Well, I'd like to sell them, but my biggest thing was they're prototypes. And every shoe that I've seen, they come in blue, they come in red, and this is the only pair that I know of in Pittsburgh Pirates yellow.
Well, they're not yellow. They're more like
Orange.
They're definitely not yellow. That's like way farther around in the color wheel. How much you want for them?
Air Jordan prototypes sell for $100,000 on the internet.
No, I didn't ask you what Air Jordans sell for.
Well,
How much do you want for these?
I was thinking that a fair price would be $2,500 would be fair.
Okay, I have no idea. I got a buddy of mine.
Okay.
I call him in a lot when I deal with expensive sports stuff.
Sure.
Maybe he can get a clue on what these things are worth.
Okay.
Hang out for a little bit, have an intellectual conversation with this young man, and I will be right back.
What's up, dude?
Oh, you do that? Bam. That's fine.
No kidding, man. These are awesome. I mean, these are 1972 Roberto Clemente. I mean, Hall of Famer, hero, MVP, All-Star. Clemente was all those things.
Apparently he was in the fashion industry as well.
Well, this is really cool because, you know, obviously shoes took off in the 80s with the Air Jordans, and these are 1972, endorsed by Clemente. These were way ahead of their time.
Did he pass away in 71 or 72?
He passed away after the season in 72. Plane was overweight, apparently, and it crashed into the ocean, although his body was never found. I mean, it was a tragic day for baseball. Roberto Clemente is quite possibly one of the most beloved and best outfielders ever to play baseball. You know, he played 18 seasons for the Pittsburgh Pirates, won 2 World Series championships, plus he was the first Latin American ever to be enshrined into the Hall of Fame. First of all, these look in like brand new condition, and also we had the original box.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it's amazing. The soles, everything with the facsimile signature, the number 21, and these are exceedingly rare.
Okay. What the hell are they worth?
Well, I mean, pretty much anything that touches Roberto Clemente's body is going to have tens of thousands of dollars of values, like jerseys and bats. Now, obviously, these were never worn by Clemente, but they're just as rare as some of his, you know, items. Top condition with the box and everything, you're looking at about $1,200, $1,500 for these.
Okay. He was wanting a little bit more.
Man, don't we all?
All right, well, thanks, man.
You got it. These sneakers are only around for about 1 year. They discontinued them for some reason after Clemente passed away. Had they continued to produce them, I think they really would have done well in the market.
What's your bottom dollar on them?
You're gonna laugh, but my bottom dollar is exactly what he said, $1,200.
they might be one of a kind, but there are thousands and thousands of one-of-a-kind things out there in the world. Like, it'd be like $700 for them.
Right. See, I would be definitely taking a loss, and to trade something like this for something so common as money, I really wouldn't want to do that.
So common as money?
If you think about it, money is super common, and these are super uncommon.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll go $800. That's my top dollar where I feel comfortable buying
Right.
them.
To me, maybe I'm the right owner for these shoes. To me, they're worth more than that.
Okay. Well, if you change your mind, if your wife makes you sell them or anything.
All right.
Have a good day, man.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't make a deal this time, but I got perseverance on my side, so I'll definitely be back.
What in the world is this?
These are 2 prototype pictures from the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland.
Weren't we stranded in a haunted house once for a while? Our chair was stuck?
I think that was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
I'm here today at the pawn shop to try and sell my Disneyland Haunted Mansion prototype pictures. I picked up these prototypes at a estate sale for a gentleman who worked for Disney many years. I'm hoping to sell the men in quicksand for $150 and the woman sitting on the tombstone for $200.
These are amazing. The Haunted Mansion, it was like everything Disney, it was just way over the top. They had the animatronics in it, the absolutely amazing special effects in it.
Everybody kind of got freaked out at the end when there was a ghost sitting in the chair next to you. Walt Disney just constantly would come up with these wild ideas. The Haunted Mansion, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Frontierland, Tom Sawyer's Island, Tomorrowland. You know, all these things that were just basically unthinkable.
So, what's the story with them being from the Haunted Mansion?
A gentleman that worked for Disney for a long time in their maintenance department, he saw them in a warehouse and asked his boss if he could take them, and they said yes.
Okay.
So you're saying these were prototypes of art that was supposed to be on the walls in there?
Yeah. These are like the prototypes that were shown to Walt before they were actually made into the actual things that are in the elevator room.
Okay. So how much you want for these?
For the men in the quicksand, I'd like $150. And for the big picture with the lady sitting on the headstone, I'd like $200.
Okay. Any prop from Disneyland is worth money. I mean, some of the original paintings that were in the haunted house have gone for as high as much as $300,000. Yeah. Okay, they've sold for auction at that price.
Right.
Okay. But like, there's a lot of weird things going on here. It's really weird that they're pasted together like this. Personally, I don't think these are prototypes.
Okay.
But I could be wrong, so let me call up a guy. He knows all things Disney. Let me get him down here, and hopefully he can prove me wrong.
Great, thank you.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right.
And the haunted house even terrified me when I was a little kid. What do you think?
Well, you know, you call me about Haunted Mansion, I come right away. I got to tell you, it's one of the hottest collectibles there is in Disneyana. And these look a lot like the stretch paintings that are in the elevator in the Haunted Mansion. These paintings were designed by a gentleman named Mark Davis, who was an Imagineer at the park, and he was an animator before that. Animated Bambi was one of his more famous features. And these paintings are iconic parts of the Haunted Mansion. When you're in that elevator and these paintings start to stretch, this is the most memorable part of the ride. When the elevator started, you would see just her, you know, and as the elevator went down, you'd get the story of what happened to her husband or what happened to this guy in the quicksand. Great iconic images from the park. Really, really fun. In this particular case, you're saying they were used for?
They were prototypes to show Walt.
Okay. Davis would paint the originals, which are about this big and about this wide. Painters or Imagineers would look at Davis's images and then paint a replica of them on canvas that would go into the ride. But there's no reason to do a prototype that has a man's head on the top of the frame, because that's not how the gag works. So that wouldn't be the prototype for it. And when we look at this, we would say, well, why would they cut this out and put this together like a puzzle when they could just paint it? What I can tell you, by looking at these and knowing their history, unfortunately, the quality of the artwork is not that of Mark Davis, and it's not that of Disney. The materials they used and the way they put it together is not the way they would have done it there at Imagineering. My guess with something like this, and the reason it would be in a Disney warehouse, maybe these were a decoration for a party, maybe these were used at some sort of event there at the park and then just put into storage.
So I'm assuming it's not worth anything?
Unfortunately, I don't see these being worth anything, especially in the condition they're in.
Okay.
No, I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you, man. Thanks for
All right,
having me.
thanks, man.
You guys take care.
Hey.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to be able to give you anything for him.
I understand.
Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So what do we got in the box?
It is a prototype for the unreleased Kenner starting lineup Andre Agassi action figure.
Okay. There was actual tennis action figures?
They never came out.
Okay. But it's Andre Agassi. I mean, we have a lot in common.
Sure.
In the 80s, we both had hair.
Oh, sure. I'm here today at the pawn shop to try to sell my prototype Andre Agassi action figure. This figure is one of two known to exist. These were supposed to be destroyed after Kenner failed to lock down the license very close to production. And I found this in the basement of an ex-Kenner employee. I'm a big collector and I buy and sell a lot of prototypes and I'd like to sell them today. I'm hoping to get $10,000 from my Andre Agassi prototype action figure.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, Agassi had a pretty cool career. He's a Vegas local. Been playing tennis since he was like 2 years old. He would joke around and say he's an 8th grade dropout because, you know, by the 8th grade, that's all he did was play tennis. But in the 90s, I mean, he was unbelievable. I think he won 8 Grand Slams. So what company made these?
These were intended to be released by Kenner.
Okay.
So he was the flagship player for the intended Kenner starting lineup tennis line.
All right, I'm really intrigued with this. I think it's sort of fascinating. You can tell it's probably a prototype.
Absolutely, it's a test of the molds and the color was irrelevant. You know, he would not have had clear legs when they produced him.
Yeah, that would have been a little weird.
Yeah.
Got a certificate of authenticity here. Apparently it's authenticated by a guy named Tom Derby.
That's correct.
How much do you want for it?
I'm asking $10,000.
$10,000. All right. I don't deal in a lot of super expensive toys. So I got my toy guy. I'll get his opinion on it.
Okay.
All right. And I'll be right back.
Thank you.
The only Grand Slam I've ever gotten is at a breakfast restaurant. Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Hey, Rick, what's going on?
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Like I told you on the phone, we have a action figure that's half Andre Agassi, half Invisible Man.
Yeah. Cool prototype, man. You know, I love the hair on this figure. So this specific item is believed to have been intended for what was called Timeless Legends. And that line was really cool because it did a lot of like secondary sports. You had boxing, you had some hockey figures, you had some golfers that were involved in this. There was supposed to be some tennis made. And in fact, Arthur Ashe was one of the tennis players that was on that list that was going to be made. And this is pretty unique.
So what do you think?
It looks like what I would expect one of these test shot or first shot prototypes to look like. You can see that the different colors of plastic that they use, that's done intentionally so they can identify quickly what they wanted to make changes on. They would have left this toy unassembled so that way if there was something they wanted to fix on it, they could take that piece off, discuss it, mark it up, put it on a mock-up sheet, and send it off to get the changes made.
Okay, so he has paperwork from this individual right here, and he wants a ridiculous amount of money. So what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you first, CIB is highly, highly respected in the industry. They're the authority as far as authenticating toys, especially when it's something like an item like this that might be a one-off.
Okay.
And from my understanding, the only one that actually is out and available on the market would be this specific Andre Agassi. Within the last 10 years, there's no indication that anybody has a painted production piece or anything like that.
Okay, so bottom line, what do you think it's worth?
It's hard to really assign a solid market for this because it's really the only one that exists. We can only compare it to other items that are like it. And based on that, $1,200 is what I'd look to get for it.
A lot lower than what I was asking.
Okay. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, so far cry from 10 grand.
Yeah, we're pretty far apart.
So my my big time offer is $600.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that today.
Okay. I mean, what is your best price?
Yeah, I've seen other starting lineup prototypes sell for $4,000 and $5,000. I would want to get $3,000 minimum, so we're pretty far apart.
Yeah, we're way too far apart. All right, if you change your mind, come back and see me.
Cool, thank you.
I don't think the offer was out of bounds at all.
How you doing?
How's it going? What do we got here?
I got something I think would interest you. It's the original prototype of the game Battleship.
Okay. My brother cheated in this game all the time. He'd be like trying to be real sly and move your battleship around.
No cheating. I have the original prototype of the game board Battleship. I have a little store in my hometown, and a gentleman came by, and he didn't know what it was. When I opened it, I knew it had to have been the prototype. I was hoping to get 10,000.
I find it interesting. Board games are cool. Battleship was a really big thing. I mean, I had a Battleship game I got in probably the early 70s. The hardest one to find was the tugboat because that was just like 2 holes.
Right, 2 holes, yeah.
And there was a bunch of different variations on this game, going all the way back to the 1930s. I think it was called Salvo or something like that.
Salvo was the name of it, yeah.
Salvo looked sort of almost identical to that.
Yeah.
And you had to draw your ships on it with a pencil.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 1967, Milton Bradley came out with Battleship. And you're saying this was the prototype?
Prototype.
How do we know this one is the prototype?
All the paperwork is here, and I have pictures.
Okay. This is a return letter from Parker Brothers. So basically it's a rejection letter. Some rudimentary instructions, and we have like a drawing of this.
Right.
How much do you want for this thing?
I'm asking 10,000 for it.
It's interesting. There's a really big market for them. I've never really had a prototype, but here's my issue. Board games were huge in the 50s and the 60s. We were talking these game companies probably got 100 submissions a day for different board games.
Right.
This is one of them. I think this was some guy who came up with a game really similar to Salvo, called it Sea Hunt, and he was trying to sell it to game companies and he didn't succeed. Basically, what you have here is a board game that a guy made in the 50s that was never sold. I do not think it's the prototype. And wouldn't be interested.
Okay.
All right, but thanks for coming in.
Yep.
I'm sorry I sunk your battleship. Have a good one.
You too. I'm going to do some more research and try to sell it online. That's basically what I'll do.